Welcome to a new video, Patreon. We've got a lot of things to discuss in this video. I'm going to try to keep this under an hour long. I hope you've all been having a great week. I can't believe we're already almost into March 2020. Time is indeed flying. We are already almost 3 months into the new year, and I hope that you have a powerful footing. I hope that you've been doing things that can help increase your health, increase your expansion of consciousness, because, ladies and gentlemen, we are indeed living in a hell world. What's really interesting, however, is that although we live in a hell world, we also have the ability through great states of health and an enlightenment process known as Kundalini. We have the ability, folks, to actually attain what's known as Christhood by the Gnostics, and we have the ability to enter into heaven consciousness, so to speak. So we live in a weird world where this dimension, this physical world, is a realm where you can experience heaven, hell, and purgatory. Purgatory, for those who don't know, is kind of like a realm in between heaven and hell. It's where you're stuck. So I'm not really going to get into that in this video, folks, but I am going to say that we do live in a crazy world, and because of that, it's really important that you take care of your health. I don't just get on here and rant about these things because just have nothing else to do. I'm aware of the fact that our health is under assault. I'm aware of the fact that our genome is under an assault. And I'm aware of the fact that the upper echelons, these secret societies and these control grids, are the secret societies and the organizations and the controllers that run everything here in the Matrix. I'm aware of the fact that they understand you on a very genetic subatomic level. They have succeeded in the bastardization of your cells, plural. You have about 100 trillion cells, give or take, depending on who you ask. It's my opinion that we have over 100 trillion cells, but that's besides the point. They have mastered the polluting and the damaging of the human cell. So I've said this once and I'll say it again. The human cell consists of many parts known as organelles, ladies and gentlemen. So you have a cell wall, you have cell fluid. I'll show you in just a minute on my screen capture. But inside of the cell, you have things that are known as organelles. And organelles essentially means little organs. Your cells are comprised of a vast ecosystem of living parts, including but not limited to your mitochondria, your lysosomes, the nucleus, the genetic material inside the nucleus, you name it. So this is how mind control works to a large extent. They attack you and they reroute the health of your entire cellular matrix so that the basic fundamental building blocks of who you are not aligned and working properly. They've significantly decreased the efficiency at which the mitochondria within your cells produces energy. Your mitochondria are kind of basically, in layman's terms, the engine of your cells. They provide energy. And they've significantly, through the bastardized foods that they've fed us from a very young age and all of the other genetic material or manipulation, that they've done to us, they've significantly lowered the efficiency of the cellular ecosystem so that in doing so, the basic fundamental building blocks of who we are don't work efficiently. Yeah, I can't speak today. They've essentially dumbed down the basic building blocks of who we are. And by doing so, due to the fact that we have an intimate connection with those essential building blocks, our cells, they're essentially what we're made of, folks. They have taken us out of alignment because they've made the cells, plural, very unhealthy. They've made them not run efficiently. So the cell, ladies and gentlemen, of the human being with an individual, or when an individual is experiencing Christ consciousness, also known as Kundalini, Gnosis, or enlightenment, the entire cell becomes illuminated. The organelles get hyper-stimulated and become something much greater than they actually are now. They regain their vibrancy. They regain their health. They become something much different. The cells of the human being currently are like it's like a colony of 100 trillion Ford Pintos. In an enlightened individual, the cells are like an advanced spaceship. The cells are a very, very important part to us becoming illuminated, to us becoming enlightened, ladies and gentlemen. They are the fundamental building blocks of who we are. So let's take a look, on screen capture. Really quick, if I can pull something up here. see here, folks. This is not an ideal picture in any shape or sense of the word, but we have here a human cell. We have all of these pieces to a human cell, and all of these pieces have very specific functions. This aspect, or these parts of our cells that are known as organelles, react to the food that we consume, ladies and gentlemen. They react to our thoughts. They also, just to dovetail this in, folks, the human cell, and there's hundreds of thousands of these in your body. They make up who you are. They're the fundamental building blocks of who you are. Our cells react to the positioning of our assemblage point. Now, I don't really have time to go into exactly what the assemblage point is in this video. I've discussed it in a handful of previous videos here on my Patreon page. Please, if you're interested in learning more about the assemblage point, go back and look through my archive. I have probably 5 or 6 videos where the core message of what I'm trying to teach is, discussing the assemblage point. You can also pick up a book called The Art of Dreaming by Carlos Castaneda. And in that book, Don Juan Matus, the Yaqui Indian sorcerer that is found throughout many of Carlos's books, discusses in detail exactly what the assemblage point is, what its function is, how it works, and how it relates to human health and our ability to break past the barriers of the electromagnetic spectrum, and in doing so regain our enlightenment so that we are not living in a perception prison of sorts. I hope that makes sense. The assemblage point, in layman's terms, just to really briefly expound upon it or describe it, the assemblage point is a very specific part of our electromagnetic field, our energetic field, our aura, that dictates how our perception actually operates. So the thing about the assemblage point is it can move based on experiences in our life. Certain things can happen to us that move the positioning, traumas, certain exposure to certain foods, exposure to certain belief systems can actually take the assemblage point and reposition it. And in the process of it being repositioned, your perception changes. So to wrap things up, in a state of enlightenment, ladies and gentlemen, your assemblage point is torn free from where it currently is and put into a completely different position. And because of that, you are allowed to see past your blinders. When the Kundalini energy moves through your system, it forcibly moves the assemblage point to a new position where you can actually see more of and interact with more of the electromagnetic spectrum. Our assemblage point as a collective entity, the collective consciousness, most people, their assemblage point is in a very fixed position. And due to the positioning of their assemblage point, they can only see reality through a very narrow gap. And that's why people are mind controlled. Now, on top of the assemblage point being moved, we also have, as a form of mind control, the cellular system within our biology, within our physiology. Our entire cellular makeup has been polluted and damaged. They've especially gone after this particular region right here, folks, that I am circling right now on the screen, which is your mitochondria. This is, in layman's terms, the energy producer or the engine of the cell. But some of these things may not make sense. Unfortunately, with my videos, you kind of have to go back and watch older videos to make sense of what I'm talking about. If you are new to this page and you haven't watched older videos, you've kind of got to take some time and really get familiar with my content to make sense of some of these terms I'm using. But the assemblage point and its position dictates how the cell operates, because when the assemblage point is moved into a new position, ladies and gentlemen, through the Kundalini forcing it into a new position, the cell operates in a much different way. It becomes hyper illuminated. All of these pieces of the cell actually becomes hyper stimulated and actually changes its function and their activity. So I just want to briefly wrap up the assemblage point stuff and make sense of it. Let's see here, folks. Make sure I'm recording. I wanted to just say that the assemblage point, for those who don't know, in very layman's terms, is a particular piece of our aura, if you want to call it that. It's a part of our electromagnetic energy field, our subtle organizing energy field. We have around us, ladies and gentlemen, multiple layers of energy that encompass our body. It energy fields coalesce and oscillate around us and hold our organs together. They pump light in through the different dimensions into our body and into our meridians to keep us healthy. There's so many different functions to our energy field, or what I like to call our auric shield, that I don't have time to get into now. But part of the overall blueprint, folks, of the human aura, or the electromagnetic fields, the subtle organizing energy fields, whatever you want to call it, that there's a specific part known as the assemblage point, and it dictates how our energy field, the overall energy field, interacts with the dimension that we're in. And it also affects how our organs operate, the velocity of our thoughts, the speed of our thoughts. It dictates based on its position, because again, it can move, and based on how it moves, it dictates our perception based on where it's located. Again, I hope these things make sense and I'm not just blabbering. But the assemblage point is a particular part of our energy field that dictates how much of the electromagnetic spectrum we can see and interact with. That would be the easiest, most layman's way of describing it. Excuse me. It's like a governor on a vehicle. A governor on a vehicle, for those who don't know, is a part, I think it's inside of the motor. It might be part of the car's electrical system that dictates how fast you can bring a car up to speed. Most new cars, my mom's Honda, and as well as her Acura, currently, she used to have a Honda that had a governor, and she currently has an Acura that has a governor. But her Honda could only get up to about 105, 110 miles per hour. When the governor was removed, it could exceed those limits. That's kind of like what the assemblage point does. When it's fixed in a position, your perception is fixed in a certain way of perceiving based on where its position is fixed. The assemblage point likes to get fixed in certain positions, but it can move. And there are ways that we can go about attempting to get it to move. One way we do that is by going into our inner temple and doing the inner temple exercise that I talk about often here on the Patreon page. Links are in the description box below. But I want to wrap that up, but I also want to just kind of give you a brief definition. I always forget that I have this here, ladies and gentlemen. This is, we can say, kind of like a mock energy field. So if my finger was a human being standing upright in the middle of this, so imagine that my finger, not my hand and all this other nonsense, imagine that my finger standing upright is a human being. Around that human being is a three-dimensional fourth and fifth dimensional energy field that we can no longer see or interact with anymore, ladies and gentlemen, based on our programming and based on the repositioning and programming of our assemblage point. So you can think of this object here as our complete energy field. Let's just pretend that that's a Merkaba. Let's pretend that this is the Merkaba, the aura, all the different subtle layers of the human energy field. Within this energy field, there's a very specific part called the assemblage point, and it dictates how we interact with this shield. And right now, it's in a position, the assemblage point, where we don't even know we have an energy field. We have lost our damned minds, ladies and gentlemen. We have literally lost our damn minds. We are no longer who we were designed to be, and that's a huge problem. I'll leave that there for a while. That thing's really cool. I've experienced states of consciousness where I've been given glimpses of the truth of who we were designed to be, and we were designed to be much more than that we're currently exhibiting. That's all I will say. But the cell, ladies and gentlemen, like I was saying, these parts right here, these get affected by the positioning of our assemblage point. These parts of our cell get affected by the foods that we eat. And last but not least, and there's, let me just rephrase that. There are so many different ways that our cells get unhealthy. And the health of the cell dictates the health of the human. It also dictates the health of the mind, regardless of what doctors want to tell you. The doctors think that the mind is completely separate from the body, pretty much. The mind is intimately connected to the body. The health of the body largely dictates the health of the mind. It's not the entire picture, or it's not the entire piece it's not the entire, the hell is the word, what's the word I'm looking for? There's much more to it than that, I'll put it that way. But the health of the body largely dictates the health of the mind. Clean body equals clean mind equals clean body. But there's much more to it than that. We have to take into account the reality of the energy field. Taking care of your physical health is one thing, but we need a surefire way to get back into our energy field, into our Merkaba, into our aura, so that we can regain the codes to our divinity and escape this matrix. Some of these things may sound a little kooky, may sound a little crazy, but oftentimes evolutionary energy does, or evolutionary concepts do, before they are accepted as truth. I don't care if I sound crazy. I don't care if people think this stuff sounds a little loony. It doesn't matter to me, because I know it's the truth, and the truth is the truth regardless of people's sensibilities, etc. So another way, ladies and gentlemen, that these cells are currently being fried, literally, is the Wi-Fi systems. The Wi-Fi systems were developed by people who knew exactly what they were doing. In the Wi-Fi systems, especially the rollout of the 5G, is going to rapidly affect the way that oxygen is uptaken by the cell. So we're living in crazy times, folks. Well, let's just put it that way. We've been lied to about what this world is. We've been lied to about who we are, what we came here to do, and what our purpose is. And because of that, and because we've been lied to for so long, it's become a commonplace thing we just believe everything that we've been told. And excuse me, after generation after generation after generation of accepting all the programming, it's become who we are. We are solidified. Most people are solidified in their programming. And we begin to break free from our programming in a handful of different ways. But one of the most surefire ways to begin breaking free from your programming is to go into your inner temple. Links are in the description box below for those who want to do this exercise. Begin communicating with your subconscious mind and start traveling in to the elemental gateways and working with each of the elements. They will, and they have the potential to help rewire your consciousness and reconfigure to a large extent the way in which you look at the world and that you view yourself. In order for us to escape the matrix and to acquire a new belief system that's more congruent with the truth, we have to first have a system where we can go in and perform metaphysical surgery on our belief systems, on our mind, and on the deepest portions of our consciousness that are currently being suppressed or controlled. The inner temple is a way to do this. It's a psychic laboratory. It's your own personal, ladies and gentlemen, it's your own personal fortress of solitude. We all need a refuge that we can go into here in this crazy world and do some deep personal work. And the inner temple is exactly that. I first came across that exercise in one of Philip Cooper's books, and that's an author that I talk about here often on this page. And I've taken it and I've put my own personal spin on it, and I've developed it in kind of my own system, and I'm going to share that in the future. But for now, I'll just say that the link in the description box is a very valid way for you to come into contact with your own personal inner temple, which is your own personal power source. A lot of people keep asking me, why do you keep emphasizing this? What's the point of doing all this inner work? Well, ladies and gentlemen, you have to have a way of making contact with your subconscious mind if you want to grow out of your programming. You have to have a surefire way to coming into contact, with your own personal power source, and that is your subconscious mind, and we do that through the inner temple exercise. Most of us are so busy every day. Most of us are so dominated by constant thinking and the stresses of life that we scoff at the idea of meditating. We scoff at the idea of going into our inner temple, which again is your own personal fortress of solitude. This is a place where you can finally go to work out the problems in your life. This is a place where you can work out the kinks in your life. This is a place where you can transform yourself through your own mind. This is an alchemical laboratory. What are you waiting for? What do you mean, why do I keep putting emphasis on this? I keep putting emphasis on this because from a very young age, you've been dominated by external stimuli. You've literally shaped your belief systems and who you think you are and your view of the world based on what you looked at outside of yourself and the information that came into you from others and other sources, like that black box Ouija board, that television, that mind control television. With all the MTV, which is nothing more than Masonic television, and all the programming about what the earth, it's just insane how much information we've taken into our minds, ladies and gentlemen, from outside sources that we never really, we didn't create the, what's the word I'm looking for? We've absorbed information from a very young age like a sponge. Most of the information that we've taken in, ladies and gentlemen, was also incorrect. So at a young age, you get thrown into a crazy world. You get pumped full of a bunch of injections. You get thrown into situations where many people were fed formula to try to develop. We've been exposed to garbage foods, bad lighting. There's so many things that we're thrown into at a young age. And again, I'm not trying to be a pessimist. This is just the truth. People keep saying, oh, you got to be positive. I am being positive by acknowledging all the ways that we were done, all the ways, ladies and gentlemen, that we were given a bad start, so to speak. With, again, all the injections, all the blue light that we're exposed to, all of the bad food, all of the programming from teachers. And I really don't want to go off on a tangent about all that stuff in this video, ladies and gentlemen. I want to keep things succinct, but it's important that I bring it up to keep things in context. Excuse me. People keep asking me why I keep bringing up the inner temple. I bring it up because, again, from a very young age, you did nothing pretty much but take in information from the outside world, from other people and their opinions, and you took all that information and created your own unique belief system and way of looking at the world based on external stimuli. You never went in and created your own unique foundation that was purely your own. You took information from outside of you and made this soup of opinions and started cooking it, and that's what you're currently eating, metaphorically speaking. I hope that makes sense. The inner temple exercise in communicating with your subconscious mind, which is that pool of etheric energy in the middle of the temple. Again, if you don't know what I'm talking about and you want to know, check out the first link in the description box below of this video. This exercise allows you to come into contact with your own personal power source, which is your subconscious mind. It's your own personal fortress of solitude, folks. And in this inner temple, there are 4 elemental gateways where you can begin working with the 4 elements: air, fire, water, and earth. It also allows you to communicate with the earth energy and the father energy, the God energy. If you don't know, again, what I'm talking about, check out the link in the description box below. The effect that this has on the psyche is absolutely profound, and I cannot say enough about it. So we go into the inner temple so that we can discard in our own psychic laboratory. We can do a lot of introspection and a lot of transformation by working with the elements, by working with the subconscious. We can, ladies and gentlemen, start to purge ourselves of all the accumulated programming. This is a place that we can come to where we can ask our subconscious mind to expose us to our errors, and it will indeed react, and it will indeed show you. If you do the exercise properly, and if you keep your mind and your heart open enough, you will be exposed by your inner power source, your subconscious. It will show you aspects of yourself that need to be transmuted so that you can transform your life. This allows you to go, this is a place where you pretty much get to perform metaphysical surgery on yourself so that you can get rid of all the layers of previous programming and develop a system of growth that you can follow that's based on your own unique intuition and mind. The inner temple allows you to communicate with yourself and develop your own system, your own dietary philosophies based on what your body needs. When was the last time you went in and you meditated about and asked your body what it needed? This is known as intuitive eating. It's the evolved version of intuitive eating. There is a branch of dieting, excuse me, that I've become more and more interested in, known as intuitive eating. I've become very interested in this over the years. And I don't have the time to get into intuitive eating. Maybe I'll read a definition for you guys right now, but intuitive eating, ladies and gentlemen, in layman's terms, is when you listen to your body for what it needs. Your body is constantly feeding you, sending you signals through a process known as intuition. Now, intuitive eating, to many people, get really turned off by this because sometimes people have bad food cravings, and there's a reason why people have bad food cravings. I'm going to make a video specifically on intuitive eating and why this is in the near future, why people who have bad food cravings. More often than not, people have bad food cravings for bad food because whatever their diet is currently, it's missing something. It's a very simplified definition, and that's in no way, shape, or form I want you to just take that at face value, because there's much more that could be said about that. But intuitive eating is very, very interesting. And what you can do with your inner temple is you can actually go into your inner temple and communicate with yourself and really evolve intuitive eating. And instead of just going off your basic hunches for what your body wants or craves during the day, you can ask your subconscious mind what are the most beneficial foods for you. So again, some people might think that this sounds crazy to communicate with your own inner mind about what your body needs, but I hate to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, your body and your mind are intimately connected, and your mind knows exactly what your body needs. Your body knows exactly what it needs as well, and it constantly tries to tell you through intuition. But because we have so many layers of programming, and because we're so dominated by logic and all this scientific reasoning and all these diets and all this nonsense, you regard your intuition as trivial. Chances are you can't even hear your intuition because your senses have been so conditioned, again, by logic, and the whole idea that intuition, that can't be real. Science says that that's just hocus pocus, flibbity flab. You've been shut off from your own mind. You don't even have the ability anymore to listen to your own mind. You don't have the ability to tune into your intuition because you're like an antenna that's cut itself down. Let's see what a definition of intuitive eating is here, folks. I have my own definition of it, but bear with me one sec here, ladies and gentlemen. I'm trying to find, usually for definitions, there's a definition. You can just type in define, or you can type in a word on Google and it'll usually give you a definition, but not in this case. It says here that intuitive eating is a self-care eating framework which integrates instinct, emotion, and rational thought, and was created by two dietitians, Evelyn Tribal and Elise Reich, in 1995. Intuitive eating is a weight-inclusive, evidence-based model with a validated assessment scale and over 100 studies to date. I feel motivated to just read these 10 principles really quickly, ladies and gentlemen. It says, it's a personal and dynamic process which includes 10 principles. Reject your diet mentality, honor your hunger, make peace with food, challenge the food police, respect your fullness, discover the satisfaction factor, honor your feelings without using food, respect your body, exercise and feel the difference, and honor your health with gentle nutrition. So, there's so many things that could be said about intuitive eating, and I do plan on making some videos about that in the near future because my views on diet have radically changed over the years, ladies and gentlemen. They have radically changed. It's important that we don't get too caught up on dietary dogmas, and it's important that we don't get too caught up in a particular identity, because identities can be dangerous. Diets can be dangerous because if you identify with a diet and you put every single aspect of who you are, if you identify as a diet, basically, which is what so many people do. I did it for a long time. I identified as my diet. My diet was who I am, and there was no way I was ever going to go outside of the confines of that. What happens, ladies and gentlemen, is that if you identify with something too strong, it can keep you from being able to see opposing information that is trying to lead you in a different direction and trying to get you to open your mind. I hope that makes sense. So if you, for instance, just metaphorically speaking, if you think, if you were to think that just eating nothing but meat was the greatest diet ever, and you believed it with every fiber of your being, and you identified with it for long enough, you would develop your own identity based around your diet. And it would be, because of that, it would make it much more difficult for you to be open to new forms of information that contradicted your belief systems. Again, I hope that makes sense. So anytime we develop a belief system that keeps us from questioning our own belief systems, That can be really dangerous. We have to constantly be vigilant in keeping our minds open so that we don't get trapped into certain identities, because identities can lead to very strict ways of thinking where you have like tunnel vision, so to speak, and you're unable to see the broader spectrum of the whole. Just rejecting information that people are trying to share with you, for instance, just because it conflicts with your belief systems, is very immature. And I would know because I've done it for years, ladies and gentlemen. So getting away from that, ladies and gentlemen, and to get back on track, we have an energy field, like I said earlier, and this energy field was what we were designed to be in. We were designed to walk around the Garden of Eden in this energy shield. And in a state of enlightenment, when you're walking around your energy field, ladies and gentlemen, you can communicate with nature in a way that would blow your mind. You can communicate with the sun, the stars, the moon and the solar sphere, or the planetary spheres, in a way that would absolutely blow your mind. Not only have we been lied to and hoodwinked about who we are and what we came here to do, ladies and gentlemen, not only have we been pumped full of nonsense, we've been nourished on nonsense from a very young age. Not only have we had our assemblage point of our energy field repositioned to a point where we can only see a small fraction of the electromagnetic spectrum, aside from all the things that they've done to try to program us, they've lied to us about what this earth is as well. They have lied to us about the shape of it. They have lied to us about its function. They have lied to us about what this dimension actually is. We are living in a realm, ladies and gentlemen. We are living in a realm. A very magical realm at that. And in this realm, we were designed to be enlightened creatures that lived in symbiosis with this realm. And in doing so, we helped bring harmony to everything. If you could, even for just a brief second, come into contact with, how would I say this? If most people knew how grand the lie was that we've all bought into, they would be driven crazy. If people had just a glimpse of the truth, what we were designed to experience, feel. Wow, we've been sold a bill of goods and we've bought into it. We have, if you look at my shirt right now, this is an Alex Gray t-shirt. He's an artist. He does a lot of artwork for the band Tool. But you can see here all these different energy fields coming off this human. This is what the energy field, a very basic representation of what it looks like. There are all these geometric patterns of light in fourth and fifth dimensional energy that encompasses us that we can no longer see anymore, that we can no longer interact with anymore. We have a literal energetic field around us that's oscillating and coalescing around us. That's amazing to me, that we now exist in just this physical body, that we no longer can even perceive these very divine aspects of our chariot, if you want to call it that. A human being is not truly whole until he or she becomes enlightened. And when he or she becomes enlightened, ladies and gentlemen, the Kundalini energy moves up the cerebral spinal system from where it lies in dormancy at the throne of God, which is known as the coccygeal church, the Cossacks. And the energy rises up the Cossacks, moves through the cerebral spinal system, awakens the 7 primary churches of God, which are the chakras. The energy gets crucified near the base of the skull, rises up into the brain, goes into the pineal and pituitary gland, merges the divisions, the schism between the right and left lobes of the brain, and now you see through consciousness the way that you were designed, or you see reality the way you were designed to see reality. This takes place, ladies and gentlemen, by the assemblage point moving. That's what Kundalini does. As it rises, it repositions the assemblage point. And if the Kundalini energy gets into the head and fixes itself within the kingdom of God, ladies and gentlemen, your assemblage point is now in a much, much different position than it ever was in your life. And you can now pretty much see and interact with the entire electromagnetic spectrum. Our inability to see and interact with, ladies and gentlemen, the electromagnetic spectrum is why we don't see non-organic beings. It's why we don't see ghosts. It's why we don't see auras anymore. It's why we don't see the magic of reality. It's because our conditions have been our senses have been conditioned to only operate within a small, tiny fraction of the entire whole of the electromagnetic spectrum. So I've talked about this in previous videos, but I want to talk about it again. Let's see if we can find a decent picture of a human aura, first of all. We'll also open up a picture, folks, of a electromagnetic spectrum. Most metaphysical books will make the aura look like just this lame-ass ball of energy. It's not what it is. An aura is a divinely intricate, crystalline, geometric, hyperdimensional spaceship of sorts that encompasses our body. It's a lattice work of light and geometric patterning, which is absolutely perfect. And I've never to this day been able to find an accurate representation online of a picture of an energy field. I would highly suggest looking up Alex Gray's artwork. He's probably the one that comes the closest to it, and that's Alex Gray. I believe it's with an A, not an E. Alexgray, Alex Gray. Check his artwork out, folks. I can't really show them on here. There's also an artist known as, or named Samuel, Farrand, I think. Yeah, Samuel Farrand. Maybe I can briefly show you guys one of these pieces of artwork. SamuelFarrand. Again, write this down, folks. Pause and go write a pen. Or what am I saying? I keep being dyslexic today. Pause this and go grab a pen. Samuel Farrand. SamuelFarrand. Some of his artwork is pretty spot on in relation to energy grids around the human body. I think he has one called Merkaba. Bear with me here, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. I think I've showed this in maybe previous videos, but we'll just open this really quick on the screen capture so I can show you. There you go. You see, most pictures of auras that you find online, folks, are really simplified. They are just like these pictures, there's like a picture of a human with like a ball around them. No, a human aura has all of these, watch my cursor, it has all of these different layers on it. It has all of these different interacting grids. Now imagine if you were walking around this matrix right now in an energy field like that, instead of just walking around in this physical body. The physical body is only a part of the overall whole of what a human is. And again, a human is not whole or holy until the energy field becomes reawakened and reactivated. And this energy field actually communicates with you like an AI system. It's not an AI system, though, also known as artificial intelligence. It's what I've coined an OI, which is an organic intelligence. It's a living, breathing thing, and it's connected to your tissues. It's how your glands, when the aura awakens, ladies and gentlemen, it actually starts talking to you. And the aura allows you to actually communicate with your organs, because your organs, to a large extent, are what create this energy field. It comes out of you. It also interacts with the Schumann resonance of the earth. And there's so many things that there's so many things that I want to say that I just don't know how to put into words right now. But the heart energy, to a large extent, is what produces the electromagnetic field around the human being. The toroidal field from the sacred space of the heart. Then there's the aura, and you have all these subtle organizing energy fields, which you can kind of see here, kind of metaphorically or symbolically represented by all these different layers. You have multiple different layers of your energy field, ladies and gentlemen. And in a state of Kundalini, the Kundalini rises up the coccyx like you see on the screen right now, which is located towards the pelvic floor and the perineum of the human body. And it moves up the cerebral spinal system and awakens the 7 primary churches of God, which are the chakras. They're not physical churches here on earth, regardless of what these mind controllers want you to think. Let me see if I can, let's just do this. So the energy starts moving up the coccyx, also known as the coccygeal church. Samael Anwar, the author of the Yellow Book, one of the greatest books on Kundalini ever written. It's called the Yellow Book. Buy it. It's in my Amazon store. He called the coccyx the coccygeal church. It's where the Muladhara chakra resides, your root chakra. The energy moves up the coccygeal church, awakens and activates and opens the doors, so to speak, or rings the bells, if you want to call it that, all of the 7 primary churches, which is a metaphor for, opening the chakras. When I say ringing the bells of the 7 churches, what I mean by that is when the Kundalini energy moves through the chakras, it awakens a particular resonance, a frequency, which tethers you to these different states of consciousness. The resonance is what motivates the assemblage point to move. The vibratory resonance of the chakras waking up actually agitates a response in the assemblage point and starts moving it. And when the Kundalini energy gets to the top of the head, that's when all of this stuff becomes visible that you're seeing on the screen right now. Now, this is not an accurate representation of what the aura looks like completely, at least in my opinion. But it is pretty damn close in terms of its complexity. It is a very complex, geometric, electromagnetic, hyperdimensional, 4th and 5th dimensional electromagnetic grid of energy that emanates from within us as well as without us. It tethers us to the Schumann resonance of the earth and a handful of other things that I don't know how to accurately put into words right now, folks, but it is a very real thing. And, again, when the bells ring in the 7 primary churches of God, that's just me. It's a symbolic, or it's a metaphor for what happens when the chakras are awakened. When a chakra awakens, it begins to vibrate. And when that chakra begins to vibrate, ladies and gentlemen, it produces a resonance. It produces a frequency. And that frequency alters consciousness by causing the assemblage point to shift. The frequency of the chakras awakening, which is just, again, the bells of the churches being rung, metaphorically speaking, those frequencies are what force the assemblage point to move. You really need to learn about the assemblage point. You've really got to study it. But again, you have an energy field. You as a person are inside of this energy field. You're no longer in it. It's out of the picture. And now you're just this, walking around lost here in the matrix, because this is what tethers you to the absolute. But when this is gone, you're just this. You're a piece of the whole. When you become sanctified through the Kundalini energy rising, you become whole again. What do you think holy actually means? A holy individual or a saint is someone who's been made whole again by this purifying fire of Kundalini. They're an individual who's had their consciousness reawakened. Ouch. We've really got to wake up to the truth, and I don't think many people are privy to the truth. I think there's such a deception within the spiritual movement, for one. Most people have not even but an inkling of an understanding of what's actually going on here in terms of the mind control, because they've never experienced Kundalini. They've never had these experiences with Gnosis, which is just a Gnostic term for enlightenment, ladies and gentlemen. How can you understand that you're being manipulated on these levels? How can you understand, let's put it this way, how can you understand that you even have an energy field if you've never experienced it? And it's not something that you just close your eyes and go, okay, I sense my energy field. No. This is a chariot, and when it becomes awakened, ladies and gentlemen, you can not only see it, but you can interact with it. You can interact with it. This is what's known in in many occult circles as the chariot. It's the chariot of God, the Merkaba, the aura. These aspects of our physiology, I like to call it our divine physiology. Because most people, when they think of physiology, they think of the human body. They don't think of the energy fields around it. the divine physiology, which is a term again that I've coined to discuss the energy fields that encompass the human body and keep it alive. These things are mentioned multiple times throughout the Bible, ladies and gentlemen. Let's just see if, now I'm not too well versed on the Bible, but let's type in Bible Merkaba. Yeah, you can see these old interpretations, folks, of let's see. You can see these old interpretations of, there's a lot of, and I'm not saying that this came out of the Bible, but this is an accurate I think it was somewhere in Ezekiel where the Merkaba is mentioned, but it's referred to as a chariot or a group of wheels. I can't remember, but this is a pretty interesting representation, especially this right here. I hope you guys can see this on my screen. This group of beings right here, this group of beings in no way, shape, or form looks like, how would I say it? When the electromagnetic field is brought back online, most people, when they experience their Merkaba, experience divine intervention and are visited by angels. And the angels don't look like what you think angels look like. This like Hollywood romanticized version of angels that like they have like six-pack abs and like they're made to look sexy and all this nonsense. No, ladies and gentlemen. Where'd that picture go? Here we go. The angels, and I've discussed this in previous videos, and I'm going to do my best to right now. When the Merkaba, which you see right here, is awakened, let's imagine that this, ladies and gentlemen, before we get into this, is the complete electromagnetic field that's been brought back online from an individual who has experienced Kundalini, because Kundalini is what causes this field to awaken. It's the only way. The frequencies that move through the cerebral spinal system cause this field to emanate out of us by moving our assemblage point. Again, it's a much more complicated subject than that, and I wish I had the time to go into greater detail, but I don't. I'm already 47 minutes into this. I'm going to try to keep this under an hour, ladies and gentlemen. But let's just imagine that an individual has experienced Kundalini, the energy got into his or her head, and the assemblage point shifted, and now he or she is standing inside of his electromagnetic field, also known as an aura. There's all sorts of energy moving throughout his or her field of perception. He or she is downloading massive amounts of data because for once his or her assemblage point is tied into the frequency of the Merkaba, and it's giving you all sorts of divine intervention and all sorts of downloads, divine downloads. It's connecting you to the solar spheres, etc. If an individual can manage to stay in this state of consciousness for long enough, a field of angels encompasses the electromagnetic field, the Merkaba. We have, when this Merkaba awakens around an individual, it is under the jurisdiction of a particular legion of angels. It's really difficult to explain. This is how anyone who's actually authentically experienced or come into communication with higher forms of beings, these angels, such as but not limited to the seraphim or the cherubim, you are the only way that you can come into contact with these angels, unless it's some type of forcible divine intervention where they manifest briefly to save your life or whatever it is, the only true way to communicate with them in direct contact is through the awakening of Kundalini, because each of the actual frequencies of the chakras that we talked about that awaken a particular region of Enochian angels. So when the Kundalini energy moves up into the head, you've now moved the Kundalini energy through a series of energetic vortexes known as chakras or churches, which emanate a frequency that actually summons these Enochian angels to physical view. And they govern the actual awakening of the Merkaba, these particular angels. So when the Merkaba is actually online and it's spinning around you, and your aura is spinning around you, there's a group of angels that are locked in like they're part of a geometric grid to this particular energy field. It's a very difficult thing to explain, and I wish that I was better at illustrating so that I could illustrate these things in 3D. But basically, there's an angelic template of ancestral angels, ladies and gentlemen, that are built into the Merkabic template, it seems, and they actually govern our soul and its journey through the various dimensions. Angels are a very real thing, ladies and gentlemen, but they're not what most people think they are. The Hollywood programming and the religious programming has made people think that they're something that they're actually not. I'm not saying that they're not real, because they absolutely are, but they're not what most people think they are. They are, at least the group of angels that I communicated with during my first full-blown Kundalini awakening, they were actually built in like columns outside of the Merkabic field. And they were this light, etheric, hyperdimensional. I wish I had an ability to illustrate them. They didn't have arms and whatnot. They were fixed like columns with their arms like this. And they had 4 faces. And they almost had human-like, they were like a computer program almost. But this is kind of an accurate representation of what I think whoever this artist was had experienced a similar experience to what I have experienced with these angels, because the way in which they're positioned, they're all fixed. They're not moving, it doesn't look like, is very indicative of the Merkabic angels, if you will. Again, this stuff may or may not make sense, and I apologize if it doesn't. But you know what? I just closed that. I was talking about these particular beings right here that you can see on my screen. So there's all sorts of different references, ladies and gentlemen, to the Merkaba in the Bible. At least that's my, I don't take the Bible literally. I think it's a metaphoric masterpiece. Yeah, it says here that the word chariot is found 44 times in the Masoretic texts of the Hebrew Bible, most of them referring to normal chariots on earth. And although the concept of the Merkaba is associated with Ezekiel's vision 1:14-26, the word is not explicitly written in Ezekiel 1. Let's see if I can find this really quickly, folks. It says here, Ezekiel 4:26. And the angels that I saw had 4 faces. I think I just mentioned that, and I think this is mentioned in this too, folks. So this is kind of profound. It says here, I looked and I saw a windstorm coming out of the north, an immense cloud with flashing lightning and surrounded by brilliant light. The center of the fire looked like glowing metal, and in the fire was what looked like 4 living creatures. In appearance, their form was human, but each of them had 4 faces and 4 wings. Their legs were straight. Their feet were like those of a calf and gleamed like burnished bronze. This is exactly talking about the angels that are part of the Merkabic field, ladies and gentlemen. This technology, the Merkaba, is governed. It's an angelic technology. Ladies and gentlemen, when you're enlightened, you become an angel. You become an angel because when you're actually enlightened, you're in tune with the frequencies of these angels, and they saturate you and become part of you. You were designed to be a miracle worker. You were designed to be a literal Jesus Christ walking around performing miracles. We have been sold such a bill of goods. This is insane to me. How much we've been lied to. And you know what? The people who see it for what it is are considered crazy by the masses. And that's how dumbed down and just spiritually dead the masses are. The people who see the truth, who can see past their blinders, are considered crazy by the masses, ladies and gentlemen. That's how the programming works. The programming is so ingenious on a cellular level because your mind control is much more than just in your mind. It's a biological program as well, folks. It's also an energetic program. They keep your assemblage point fixed. The mind control is so genius that it actually causes an agitation in you if you have the program, if you have the zombie virus, if you have the sickness, which most Americans and people worldwide do. It's so ingenious the way that it's designed that it actually causes you to become agitated when you see or hear truth that contradicts your own bullshit ass beliefs. And you get upset and you judge people outside of you who are speaking truth. This is why oftentimes throughout history, people who spoke the truth were condemned, sometimes to death, by the masses. It's because of the fixing and repositioning of their assemblage point and what it does to your cells, ladies and gentlemen. What it does to your mitochondria, which are essentially the midichlorians in Star Wars. Maybe we'll talk about that in a brief minute. I'm going to have to get going pretty soon, though. Unfortunately, I'm just now warming up and I have to go. It says here, again, I looked and I saw a windstorm coming out of the north, an immense cloud with flashing lightning and surrounded by a bright light. The center of the fire looked like glowing metal. This is the awakening of the Merkaba. And then the fire was what looked like 4 living creatures. In appearance, their form was human, but each of them had 4 faces and 4 wings. These are the archangels that are positioned on the outside pillars of the outermost portions of the Merkaba, the human energy field, folks. These are omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient entities that are part of the angelic technology of the human biofield. It's time to wake up. Their legs were straight. Their feet were like those of a calf and gleamed like burnished bronze. Under their wings on their 4 sides, they had human hands. All 4 of them had faces and wings, and the wings of one touched the wings of another. Each one went straight ahead. They did not turn as they moved. This is exactly what I'm not even going to get into that. So, I highly suggest, ladies and gentlemen, reading Ezekiel 1:4-26. There is so much. It's amazing what's brought up here. We'll have to do a complete video just on these angels. Here you see an interesting depiction of, let's see if you guys can even see that. You see an interesting depiction of the Zodiac human. All of the Zodiac signs, just to tie this in, because it kind of has a lot to do with the enlightened human, folks. I don't know why it's displaying my stuff on the... I don't even know if you guys can see that, actually. The enlightened human, ladies and gentlemen, is the 12 cranial nerves of the human brain become awakened and tie you to the 12 signs of the Zodiac. Your body is also intimately connected to the Zodiac. Each gland, each organ, each part of your body is governed by a different sign. And when you become enlightened, you become the 13th sign. You become a fucus, also known as the Serpent bearer, which is the 13th sign that most people don't know about. And you awaken all the Zodiac creatures and signs within you and become enlightened. What is it? A fucus? I'm going to close this, ladies and gentlemen, really quickly. That way, sometimes bad images show up when you type stuff up on Google or this DuckDuckGo stuff. So I want to make sure I keep everything kosher. A fucus, the Serpent bearer. That can't be how you spell it. It's because it's not. It's with an O. A fucus. Moral of the story here, ladies and gentlemen, one of the things that I've always tried to remind people of is that there's more to life than what you think is going on here. Just because you think that everything is the way it is doesn't mean that it is, and it actually shows just how ignorant you actually are. We live in a magical realm, ladies and gentlemen. We live in a magical fucking realm. It's time to wake up. One of the ways you could, again, I've already mentioned it, but the inner temple, most of the people that I recommend this to will not do it. They'll go their whole life being in this conscious, they'll never go inward while they're awake. When they're awake, they'll be dominated by tasks. They'll be dominated by stress. They'll be dominated with a handful of, obligations. You have the ability, ladies and gentlemen, to go into your inner mind and meditate while you're awake and make massive transformation. on yourself that you can bring into the physical realm, that you can bring into your conscious world so that you can experience more of your power. There's a reason why I talk about the inner temple exercise. And again, most of the people who watch this video probably won't do it, which is sad to me. Excuse me. People want to attain the power that comes from meditating and doing inner work without doing it. And that's just not how things work, ladies and gentlemen. That is not how things work. Bear with me here, ladies and gentlemen. It's not how things work. You don't just get to ignore. You can't just ignore all the inner work that you need to do and expect to just get it. You're going to waste time thinking that way. Let's see. This is a fucus, the serpent bear right here. Again, I don't know why my screen is showing things in the middle. Probably because I'm on DuckDuckGo. But you can see here, this is the 13th sign. One of the signs that's been hidden from us. Because that's how the Matrix works. It hides things from you. You respond to a text. Hides things from you, folks, including the truth about what this world is that we're living in. They want you to think that we're living on a spinning ball in space and that everything that came from just chaos through some random Big Bang theory that, you know, they want you to live in a godless world where everything's like, really a Big Bang theory. First of all, it's a theory. Let's look up the definition of theory really quickly, ladies and gentlemen. Theory. You know, you type in theory and a fucking clothes company comes up. Theory definition. A supposition or a system of ideas intended to explain something, especially one based on general principles independent of the thing to be explained. A supposition or a system of ideas intended to explain something, especially one based on general principles independent. A theory, moral of the story here, ladies and gentlemen, is a theory is not a fact. Theories are highly agreed upon ideas. The Big Bang Theory is a theory. It doesn't mean that it's true at all. You really don't think that there's intelligent design to the creation of the universe, to the creation of the world? You really think that just there was this bang and all this stuff just came out of nowhere? It's time to wake up. Let's look up the definition of the Big Bang Theory. The Big Bang Theory is the cosmological model of the observable universe from the earliest known periods through its subsequent large-scale evolution. All the, just people just bow down and believe this shit. They think that everything's the way it is just because someone with a degree told them so, or their television box told them so. Their black box digital Ouija board television scrying mirror that's programming you and filling your mind full of nonsense. You believe that that device, that deceptive device, which is hitting you with flicker rates and destroying the rods and cones in your eyes and repositioning your assemblage point, you think that that thing is going to tell you the truth? You really think that things are true just because you were taught in school? You ever look at who funded the early? You do know that modern education is largely funded by the Rockefeller and the Ford Foundation? You do know that they've funded the majority of the world's wars and are behind some of the most corrupt organizations in the world. But, they got it right with school. They care about you. They care about you. That's why there's mandatory vaccine laws. You can't even go to school now unless you've been injected. This is all part of an ingenious design to warp your mind and turn you into a slave. Meanwhile, past the walls of Antarctica, ladies and gentlemen, the real world exists. I'm not even going to get into that. But basically, we live on a we live on a controlled piece of land in a very large realm. And they've taught us that we live in this very limited, not limited space. I mean, the Earth model isn't necessarily small, but they've given it proportions. They've given it limits so that we can stay bound to the idea that that's all the land that there is when there's much more. I know for a damn fact, ladies and gentlemen, that after my experiences, my Kundalini experiences showed me just how ignorant I was about my human body. My Kundalini experiences that I experienced proved to me just how limited my framework was and how stupid I was, how programmed I was. If we're being lied to so much, or to the extent that we are about our human body and its potential, and the Matrix, the overseers, the architect of the Matrix knows that we can experience Kundalini. The architect works overtime to target us so that we don't awaken this energy. But what I was getting at, folks, was that the Matrix lies about our human body to a massive extent. They don't want us to know that we have the ability to become enlightened, to become demigods, mortal gods, ladies and gentlemen, that have infinite amounts of power, because that threatens the continuity of their control grid. They keep us in a very conditioned state of mind. They warp our energy field, relocate the assemblage point, again, into a very fixed position where it dictates our consciousness, our perception, and keeps our ability to interact with the electromagnetic spectrum very limited. Hope that makes sense. They lie about these things so that you believe them, because they know if you can believe something with every fiber of your being, that it'll be very difficult for you to step outside of your beliefs and accept new knowledge. So they've got you by the goddamn balls. They've got you by the balls. Now, I know for a fact after the Kundalini awakened within my system in my early 20s, and I had a handful of these experiences in my early 20s, it showed me things about my body that I thought were it was miraculous. Let's just put it that way. The beauty of the human body, the beauty of the human aura, it just made me weep. It was incredible. It still does to this day. I can still feel it touching me years later. These experiences are incredible. These experiences with gnosis, nirvana, samadhi, Christ consciousness. But I know for a damn well fact that if they're going to lie to us about the human body and its potential and give us limits, that they're also lying to us about this earth, this dimension, this realm. In my opinion, and this is going to make many people upset, I'm sure, we're living in something more along the lines of Yggdrasil. I think that's how you pronounce that. I used to be super into this Norse stuff. I used to be super into this old Viking stuff when I was younger. I had all these like comic books about Vikings and all these detailed books, these picture books that I begged my mom to get me, my mom and my dad, of Vikings, and I had a really strong connection to the Norse material. I used to be just used to be so obsessed with reading these books about the Norse mythologies. But then the Game Boys come along and you end up hanging around stupid people at school and you lose interest in these things. Most of you guys had some type of connection to your inner power or to some type of magical, we all had a magical outlet and interests at a younger point in our life that chances are you might not even remember. But Yggdrasil, ladies and gentlemen, is, why can I not find it a decent... Let's just read what it is first from Wikipedia. Bear with me here, ladies and gentlemen. Let's open up the screen capture. Yggdrasil, from Old Norse Yggdrasil, is an immense mythical tree that plays a certain role in Norse cosmology where it connects to the 9 worlds. Now the tree, a giant tree, that is more, in my opinion, indicative of something known as the Kabbalistic tree of life. It's not to be taken literally, ladies and gentlemen. Some people say, "Oh, you believe we live on a giant tree?" No, I don't. You have to take things, mythological things, and old things like scripture and whatnot, and religious documents. You have to look at them metaphorically. Yggdrasil is attested to the Okay, I'm not going to read all that, but basically I believe that we live in a series of worlds that are stacked below us and above us. I just know damn well, I'm damn well sure, ladies and gentlemen, that if they're going to lie to us about the human body, they're sure as hell going to lie to us about the world we live in too. Because the enlightened body, for one, has a very intimate connection to the earth, especially with something known as the Schumann resonance. When you become enlightened, when you experience sanctification, which is the holy purifying fire of the white dove of Christ, or the purifying, blood purifying rising of the phoenix, the Kundalini energy rising, the two sacred serpents. The hell was I just going to look up? I totally forgot. Let's type in sanctification. What comes up when we type in sanctification? Sanctification is the act or process of acquiring sanctity or being made or becoming holy. You only become holy by becoming whole. Again, when you become whole. Right now we're broken. To become enlightened, it makes you whole, ladies and gentlemen. That's what sanctification is. Why do you think the saints had a fucking halo around their head, ladies and gentlemen? Why do you think the saints had a halo around their head? It's because they were enlightened. The halo is also known as the nimbus, the N-I-M-B-U-S. It's funny, you type it in on definitions and it says nimbus, a luminous cloud or a halo surrounding a supernatural being or saint. Go pick up a copy of Tool's album Lateralis and buy it in physical format and take a look at the structure on the front of the album around the man or woman's head. That is the nimbus, the tetrahedron nimbus, etheric nimbus of God, the halo. Let's see, saint halo. See if we can find a decent picture here, folks. Jesus is depicted with a halo as well. The halo, to a large extent, is the ring around your head, the etheric ring that connects you to the 12 signs of the Zodiac. When you become enlightened and tune in through the reawakening of the Kundalini energy, it ties you to the Schumann resonance, and you tie yourself, your consciousness, into the 12 signs of the Zodiac, and you have a Zodiac disc around your head. This is just a metaphor for the 12 cranial nerves becoming enlightened and producing an etheric ring around your head, ladies and gentlemen. We got to wake up. We really do. That's what I was going to type in, the Schumann resonance. The Schumann resonance are a set of spectrum peaks in the extremely low frequency ELF portion. That's what ELF stands for, extremely low frequency portion of the Earth's electromagnetic field spectrum. Schumann resonances are global electromagnetic resonances generated and excited by lightning discharges in the cavity formed by the Earth's surface and the ionosphere. The Schumann resonance has a lot to do, ladies and gentlemen, with the human frequency range when we become enlightened. We're going to talk about that in the near future, but I'm going to have to start wrapping things up right now. Unfortunately, I wanted to go much longer. It's only an hour and 12 minutes in. It's just an incredible world that we live in. Never lose the magic of life, ladies and gentlemen. Never, when I sit too long, my pelvic bone gets a little painful when I move. But never forget that we live in a magical world. Never say no to monotony and boredom. If you had any clue what was being hidden from you, if you had any clue what was being suppressed from your consciousness, you would know that we live in a magical world. They want to make life boring. They want to make life godless. They want to make life hopeless. They want to pretty much turn Earth into a scorched earth realm, ladies and gentlemen, and they've done a damn good job. We have to start fighting back, and we do that through first realizing that there's something to fight for, which is the beauty of this world, which is the beauty of enlightenment, which is peace on earth. We have to fight for that. And one of the greatest weapons that we can use, ladies and gentlemen, is our own human perception, but we need to hone our perception. Just like a individual making a blacksmith, for instance, making a sword, striking the metal, we have to show up day in and day out, regardless of how difficult it is, and work on ourselves. We've got to get the minerals into our systems. We've got to cleanse our tissues. We've got to get the shit out of our systems. That's why I talk about this stuff often. We've got to go into our inner temple and hone our minds and increase our perceptive abilities. We've really got to, and folks, ladies and gentlemen, you've got to, do the homework here on the Patreon page. You've got to pick up a copy of John Kreider's book, Vampire's Way to Psychic Self-Defense, and you especially need to pick up his book, Overcoming the Archon Through Alchemy. Those two books are the primer for fighting back against the Archon, the Great Archon, which is kind of an umbrella term for the higher intelligence that's governing the destruction of this earth and the distillation of human energy so that it can feed off of us. I've talked about this in previous videos. I'm going to do my best to put links to those videos in the description box below. I have a video where I discuss exactly what the Archon is. The Archon is posing as God and distilling human energy and siphoning it into its etheric ovum or its etheric makeup and feeding off of us. The Archon can, to some extent, be kind of related to Stephen King's It, but on steroids by like 10,000-fold. It's a ancient intelligence that feeds off of energy. The human energy field produces energy. That's why it's an energy field. It's an electromagnetic field. It produces light, produces energy, and it produces magnetism, ladies and gentlemen. Why do you think that this isn't part of the picture? For one, it's because of what we mentioned earlier about the assemblage point. Our own belief systems keep us from being able to truly experience this amazing grid, this aura, this Merkaba, these energy fields. But to a large extent, this is out of the picture because of the Archon and its omnipresence and its ability to feed on our collective energy fields. That's what it does, ladies and gentlemen. You are not only losing your power because of your own irrational and illegitimate belief systems and your programming, but you're losing it simultaneously to the predatory, non-organic beings that govern this matrix. You cannot see those beings anymore because you can only see into a small percentage or small fraction of the electromagnetic spectrum, ladies and gentlemen. That's why you cannot go past your blinders. That's why you cannot see these non-organic beings that are feeding on you in your energy field. When you have negative energy, it permeates through your energy field and gets lost. Unless we have a system of bringing it back into our system and transmuting it and reintegrating it into our system, we lose that energy and we are drained, ladies and gentlemen. We become drained. This is, to a large extent, the key right here. The energy field, the geometric grid of consciousness around us that connects us to the true God, which in Gnosticism is known as the monad. And then you have the dyad, you have the triad, and you have all these supernal layers and different aspects of the overall supreme intelligence. But there is a negative entity here that is posing as the God. It's the God of the Old Testament, ladies and gentlemen. And it is trying to get people to convert to their bogus forms of Christianity. I'm not even going to get into that. I'm not saying that Christianity is bogus because I consider myself a Christian, but I'm a Gnostic Christian, Gnostic. I'm a Gnostic. And within Gnosticism, Jesus taught that ye have the ability to perform miracles greater than I do. Jesus Christ is just an archetype for an individual who awakened his body and mind completely and sustained that awakening. Jesus Christ is an archetype for an individual who became enlightened and was able to sustain that enlightenment, not lose it. Because let me tell you, the frequency is so intense and it puts so much stress on the damaged tissues and the calcified tissues of the human body that for an individual to experience enlightenment, usually it's short-lived because the body can't handle the electrical wattage. The body needs to be beefed up. We need to cleanse. We need to get the shit out of our system, ladies and gentlemen. I've talked about this in previous videos, and I'll just lightly bring it up again. I am probably going to be putting together a package for cleansing in the near future. Keep an eye out for it. I'm still debating whether or not I'm going to do it, but chances are I'm going to put together some form of package for people who want to begin the cleansing process. But just really briefly before we wrap things up, what I like to do is every Sunday to every other Sunday, I'll take a bag of traditional medicinals smooth move tea I will boil water. I'll bring it up to a rolling boil for about 30 seconds. Then I will turn it off and I will dump scalding water over a bag of traditional medicinals smooth move tea. And then I'll put a glass on top of that so that the steam doesn't escape. And I will let that sit for about 30 minutes. And then I will refrigerate it and drink that before bed on Saturday. Actually, usually it's Sunday morning, because on Saturday nights I stay up past 12. So I go to bed at like between 1 and 5 a.m. on Sunday morning. So I'll take that probably at like 1 a.m. on Sunday morning. And then by the time I wake up, I'm ready to eliminate. Smooth move tea, for those who don't know, is a laxative tea. It helps stimulate something known as peristalsis within the gastrointestinal system, which is the wave-like contractions of the GI system that help us eliminate fecal matter, impactions, mucus, you name it. The gastrointestinal system is a huge part to the puzzle here about mind control. There's a lot of garbage in our system, and we've had illegitimate creatures, bacteria, fermentation, putrefaction, rancidification, again, different bacterias, not Lyme disease, what is it called? Small intestinal bacteria overgrowth and candida to a large extent from the wrong mixing of sugars with carbohydrates. We have a gastrointestinal system that's very compromised, and that's just one piece to the puzzle here, ladies and gentlemen, about getting our power back. Your gastrointestinal system, or better yet, your alimentary tract, is your tubing from your mouth to your anus. This is where you expose yourself to most of your toxicities. Well, most of the food-related toxicity. You expose yourself to the real toxicity through your eyes and your ears. We'll get into that in the near future. But taking a laxative, herbal-style laxative once a week is a really good idea. Triple leaf tea has one called laxative tea, but I don't know if those herbs are organic. And it's been a long time since I've consumed that one. But I know the traditional medicinal one works really well. The hell else was I going to say, folks? You don't want to take just senna by itself. Senna is one of the ingredients in these laxative herbal style teas that helps you eliminate junk from your bowels. But if you take it just by itself, which if you were to go to like the Dollar Tree, they have like dieter's tea, they call them, slimming teas, where it just has senna. That'll cause cramping. It's not good for you. You want to mix senna with things like cinnamon. Sometimes you want to mix it with stuff like whorled mallow or licorice root, or ginger even, to help calm down the contractions that senna causes. Golden seal is another one that works really well with, ladies and gentlemen, the senna. Herbs are sometimes not very, sometimes herbs can be dangerous when they're not mixed with other herbs. So senna, I'm not saying it's going to kill you. It's not. It's relatively safe for sure, but if you use it too much by itself, it can be dangerous. And that's why it can be dangerous because your body can become dependent on it to go to the bathroom. But if you use it once a week to once every 2 weeks, if you have good digestion, then you're going to be fine. It's just going to help it's kind of metaphoric or similar to changing your oil. When was the last time you changed your oil? I can guarantee you changed your oil in your car on time. But do you change your oil on your vehicle, your real vehicle, your body? Anyways, I'm going to wrap this one up. We're going to talk about tuning forks, I think, in the next video as well, and frequencies, and how frequencies can be used to heal and to reposition the assemblage point. There's so much to be talked about, ladies and gentlemen. There's so many things that can be said, but always remember that there's more to life than what we're being told, and don't give up on yourself, and always remember that when things get difficult, it's often right before things get good. Peace be with you all. I wanted to personally thank you for watching my videos and contributing to the growth of my channel. I could not do this without you, and your interest in my content is truly what motivates me and fuels my passion for making these videos and spreading my message. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. I wanted to remind you that this channel is a free educational tool that is listener supported, and if you would like to donate to my channel and donate to my cause, help make my life a little bit easier and help keep the lights on around here, you can do so by checking out the links in the description box below. There's a handful of not only ways to donate to my channel, but I also have links to different websites and different videos of mine, as well as my Amazon store, where you can check out a plethora of different health-related products that I use and recommend. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, Thank you so much for your continued interest in my message, and until next time, peace be with you all.